Hi, this video is going to walk you through setting up some folders and some GIS software for working with your thunderstorm data. And this is just the beginning phase. So we're going to work with our catalog just to set up our folders and connect to our folders and then work with it from there. So the first thing I like to do when I'm working with ArcGIS software, preparing to do a GIS project, is I like to make a good file structure for me to load the data, save the data, and work with it. So I'm just going to do that right here on the desktop. You can do this anywhere you feel comfortable on your computer. So I'm going to right click on my desktop, go to new, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it demo data. Oops, let me rename that. And inside this folder, I'm going to create two subfolders. One's going to be called data. It's going to hold our spreadsheet, our CSV, a comma separated value file, which I'll show you how to make in a second. And then we're also going to work, and that'll also hold our file geodatabase, which we'll also make in this video. And that's where we're going to store our spatial data and work with it. I'm going to make another new folder called maps. And this folder contains all of the spatial projects. So we're going to have a project file that's going to sit in there, and I'll show you how to make that later on. I'm going to close this. So the next thing I'm going to do is open up the spreadsheet for the January monthly data. And this Excel spreadsheet, let's click Enable Editing. What I'm going to do is clean this to make sure this data is nice and clean and tidy. ArcGIS software and GIS software in general, open source and commercial, tend to want to work with very tidy data. So I'm just going to click on this magic button here between A and 1, highlights the entire spreadsheet, hover over any two columns, get the double-side arrow, double-click, little trick, and you can see I've resized all the cells in this spreadsheet to the proper size so I can get a really clear view of this data. I'm going to go right down this first row here and make sure everything is named properly, possibly. There isn't any errant exclamation mark, underscore, slashes, dots. All those kind of things can actually throw off reading this data properly into ArcMap and ArcCatalog. And then I'm just going to scroll down really quickly here, just see if there's any missing data, something that doesn't looks out of place. I don't see anything. This is very tidy data. It looks good. Now I can file save as what's called a CSV, comma separated value. That is what I recommend working with in ArcMap as much as possible. You can use an Excel spreadsheet directly, but I always tend to use CSVs. Click File, Save As, and I'm going to browse right to that folder I created on the desktop. So it's going to default to the desktop. There's my demo data. Double click, go right into my data folder, and I'm going to click on the name of the file here, get rid of those dashes. I tend not to use dashes a lot. ArcMap, you want to keep everything as simple as possible. Get rid of dashes. Underscores are okay. Do not have exclamation marks, dots, any kind of commas, not good. Get rid of them, especially if you're going to work with ArcMap. Click on this drop down now. We're not going to save it as an Excel workbook. We're going to save it as a comma separated value or comma delimited file, which is just a text file. And what it does is it replaces those columns with commas. There are other CSVs here, as you can see, but I don't recommend using them. Just use a comma delimited. Click Save. Excel is going to throw this every time you do this. That's fine. Yes, we want to keep this format. Now that we've saved it, it looks good. We've checked it over. We can actually close the file, and we can actually now start working with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Start button down here on the left, and I'm going to go to All Programs, and I'm going to scroll until I see the ArcGIS folder. And here's where I'm going to launch ArcCatalog from. ArcCatalog is not the mapping software. What it is a file management portion of the GIS software. It allows you to preview the data, which is very nice, and allows you to manage the data. I always start with this, and then the next step we'll go to ArcMap. But start with ArcCatalog. And ArcCatalog will open up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a folder connection to my demo data folder. How did I do that? Here you can see there's folder connections here to different folders on the file on the computer, and it can connect anywhere you want. I tend to connect to roots. As you can see, I don't go below into specific files. click on the black plus sign, automatically the desktop, click on demo data, that's the folder I created, and click OK. So now I've got demo data here. And you can see underneath demo data I have data and I have maps. You can see our CSV file is in there. I can click on preview, and I can preview it as a table. So you can see now Arc Catalog is reading this. You can look at the information again. Looks like we didn't lose anything. All of our field names are coming in nice, and it looks like we're all set to move on to our next step, which is we'll launch ArcMap, and we'll actually read this data in and work with it. Before I go, the last thing I'll do is I'll click on this data folder. I'm going to right-click, click New, and I'm going to create a file geodatabase. This is where we're going to store all of our Esri or ArcMap formatted data. And it's going to call this January Demo Data. Right-click. You'll see this symbol a lot in the software. It's a cylinder, but really what it's supposed to stand for is a geodatabase. So in the next step, the next video, we're going to read this data into ArcMap using the latitude and longitude fields right here, and then we're going to save it back to this geodatabase in our data folder, and then we'll work from there.